Lord of Jesus Christ.
Glory forever.
Good evening.
Good evening, Father.
This Wednesday is almost halfway through the Great Lent. Last Sunday, or a few days ago on Sunday, we celebrated the veneration of the cross. And this weekend, we will celebrate the ladder of divine ascent. Every Sunday in Lent has a theme, and a powerful theme at that. The thing we got to understand about the Great Fast is that you have to be persistent. You have to be persistent in your prayers. You have to be persistent and diligent in your fasting. And you have to be persistent in everything that you do and that you set forth your life to do during the Great Fast. And really the key is that if you increase your prayer life during the Great Fast, you're supposed to remain in that increased prayer life throughout the whole year. Because this is the time where you pick it up a notch a little bit and you get used to it. One of the things that I've realized in my life is that our passions are habits. The habits that we have are completely ingrained in us. It doesn't take much thought for us to go. We can be halfway sleeping for us to get up in the middle of the night, go and grab a glass, go and fill up some water and drink that water. It doesn't take any brain power whatsoever, hardly, to do those things. Or for us to go to the bathroom, or for us to do any of the things that are naturally occurring in our lives. And our passions are the same way. We get used to doing them. As a matter of fact, we get so used to our passions that when we attempt to try to get rid of them, it feels like we're losing a friend. It feels like we're losing something close to us. We're so used to being angry. We're so used to pornography. We're so used to violence. We're so used to every sin that we encounter that when we actually start working towards removing those passions from our life, taking out that toxic and venomous thing called sin, because it's both. It's toxic and it's venomous. And it affects us. And not only does it affect us, it affects our prayer life, it affects our walk with God, it affects our relationships, it affects every single aspect of our life. Imagine if we put as much diligence and as much persistence in our prayer life as for us that we have done in our sinful life. Can you imagine that? Because if I would have done praying as much as I've done sinning, I would be much farther in my walk with Christ as I am now. But like I said, on Sunday, I likened the cross to the relay race that people run. There's 4 legs to the relay race. And the relay race has that baton that they have, and they hand it off in certain parts of the race. That's what our cross is. That's what our cross is for. Our cross is meant to pass on to our children and to our spouses and to the people of church. And when we realize that this cross that we carry, this cross that we hold around our neck, is the same exact cross as Christ carried, we will begin to take it seriously. Can you imagine that day when Jesus was carrying the cross on his journey to Golgotha? That day, he was carrying with him, every one of us. He was carrying all of us with him. He was carrying Adam and Eve all the way to the last person that's ever going to be born before he returns. He's carrying all of us. That weight of that cross takes the entire church to hold up in order for us to carry that. We often think that we're an island unto ourselves. But the important thing to remember is that the church, the ecclesia, is the ones that are called out. The church militant. It's a military that we fight together, we live together, we're supposed to get used to each other, we're supposed to pray for each other. The most important thing that we can do is pray for each other with diligence and persistence every single day. And learning, as we did last week, that prayer rope, right? The kubuskini. To learn that prayer, Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Every single time we find ourselves faced with a choice. Do I sin or do I pray? You don't have to have an elaborate prayer. You just got to make sure that you keep that rope on your hands at all times. Because oftentimes, if you can at least look at it, it'll jar you out of the state that you're in at that moment, just long enough for you to be able to begin to pray. But what happens? Satan knows how to derail us with the smallest things. It takes something incredibly small to derail us from walking our path. Incredibly small. That doesn't even constitute sicknesses and divorces and all the things that are happening. It just takes something incredibly small for him to derail us from our journey. And oftentimes, we sometimes drop the baton, but we have to go with courage and with great fervor to be able to pick up that baton and keep the race going. And we run that race until we draw our very last breath, where we can completely hand it over. Because the legs of the journey are to the cross, to the tomb, right? To the resurrection, and our last leg of the journey is before the throne of God, where we look forward to hearing, God willing, those very coveted words that all of us want to hear. Well done, good and faithful servant. That's our goal. I just want to stand before the Lord with a good defense. And I pray that he has found me worthy, Lord, that the Lord has found me worthy, that he hears my prayers, that I have repented and gone to him with complete love, and that he has taught me how to love others. And until then, run our race. We fight the good fight. We become people that we're meant to be and called to be, and we teach our children to be the people that they're meant to be. And when we're here in the church, we look at each other with the utmost love, with that agape love, that teaches us how to endure everything. Because if all of us are praying for each other, there's nothing that the enemy can do for us and to us. He will not, the gates of hell cannot stand against Christ and what he did for us. We just have to rise above it and be persistent, and we have to be diligent in our walk with God. So let us glorify and praise the name of the Lord.